What the Sam Hill's going on here?
The Rewatch Podcast presents the Lois and Clark Rewatch, dedicated to the series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman on ABC. Join us each week as we investigate the origins of the Man of Steel and uncover crime in Metropolis. Send your feedback to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or follow us on Twitter at rewatchpod.
Oh, hey! Let's get back to it.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Lois and Clark Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And does it really matter who I am? I mean, really? I'm here. We're going to do the podcast anyway. I mean, does anybody really care? What's the big deal? I'm just, whatever.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here. What, did you leave this rock here? Because I don't know where this came from. It's just sitting here. I don't know.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, see ya next time, I guess.
Or not.
Or not.
We do have an episode to put out this week.
That's right. Okay.
Yes.
Damn that red K.
Yes, thank you for joining us, everyone. We're here discussing 2 more episodes of Lois and Clark, and this week's headline reads, Target Individual. Boom. We're discussing Target Jimmy Olsen and individual responsibility. So let's get into it. Episode 1 today. Target Jimmy Olsen, written by Tony Blake and Paul Jackson. Directed by David Jackson. And this originally aired April 2nd of 1995.
Catherine? What are you doing?
Dr. Golden.
I thought this was settled. Those files are to be destroyed.
These files represent years of my father's work.
Catherine, Project Valhalla was a horrible mistake.
Was it? Nice work, Mother. I thought you were going to keep him occupied.
Yes, well, apparently I'm not Dr. Golden's type.
Oh, Claudette, this is insane. Even your husband admitted that experiment never should have happened.
But my husband is dead. And Project Valhalla is going to be my reward for playing the doting military wife all those insufferable years.
I'm getting security.
Alan, please, work with us. You kept the secret for 20 years. Now earn your reward.
You disgust me. Catherine, please, listen to reason. You can't play God with people's lives.
Yes, we can.
When Jimmy's doctor is found dead, Lois and Clark are on the case. It's soon discovered that 3 files are missing from the doctor's office, Jimmy's and 2 others. On their way to check on one of them, Sarah, they find her being attacked by a man who tries to get away but is quickly captured by Superman. Jimmy and Sarah notice another connection besides sharing doctors, a rash they both have been getting every year at the same time since they were children. Meanwhile, a doctor named Catherine Wilder has reopened a project called Valhalla, an experiment in which certain test subjects were infected with a virus that would turn them into mind-controlled assassins when triggered by a special serum and code word. With her father having passed on, she and her mother Claudette have decided to take over and use the project for monetary gain, finding a buyer interested in purchasing the research. While Jimmy and Sarah are under the watchful eye of Lois and Clark, the missing 3rd test subject turns up to shoot up downtown Metropolis. Unfortunately, a side effect of the mind control serum used to control him results in him dropping dead after Superman stops him. Later that night, while Lois and Clark go on stakeout, a call placed to Sarah activates her assassin program and she holds Jimmy hostage as Claudette arrives to inject Jimmy with the serum. He's ordered to kill Lois, but Clark, as Superman, intervenes after stopping a similarly activated Sarah from trying to kill him at the planet. While the Man of Steel takes care of Jimmy, Agent Scardino rounds up the Wilders and their buyer and soon ends up being asked out by Lois, who has finally had enough of Clark's excuses about his disappearing act and wants to explore other possibilities.
Hey guys, look at this. Mallow had the same rash on his arm that we do.
Do you think he was already under mind control?
That's exactly the kind of behavior Salem Wayland said Valhalla was capable of producing.
What does Valhalla mean, anyway?
Oh, it was Nordic myth. Supposedly, there was this band of young women called the Valkyries, and they would ride out over the battlefields on these great airborne war horses. And their job was to pick fallen soldiers who were fit to enter Valhalla.
The police finally ID'd that guy in Sarah's apartment. His name was Klaus Martin, and his one phone call was to a bail bondsman named Roxy Terrace.
Forensics report just came in on Mallow.
says the doctors found a drug called Tycion in his blood.
Tycion? That's the missing drug Dan Scardino's been tracking. You know, the one that was ordered under the forged signature of Dr. Golden.
Yeah. So we have 2 doctors connected to this Valhalla project, Golden and Wilder. One of those is dead, and I would bet my boots the other one doesn't make house calls. Why don't you 2 pay her a visit?
Okay, so let's get into the investigation. A fair bit, actually.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. The first bit here comes from the Lois and Clark wiki, where they mentioned, and I knew this when he showed up in the show, their buyer, I guess his name was Avari or whatever his name was, the guy who's going to buy the serum and the research.
The character's name is Moonhauser.
Moonhauser, okay, yeah, I forget who it was. So he played, Dr. Suresh on Heroes, and he was also Elektra's father in the underrated Daredevil movie, which I really actually did like. A lot of people put it down, but I liked it. And then Salen Whalen, that guy, his name is Charles Napier. He was a henchman in the Incredible Hulk Returns movie that was on TV. I don't know if you saw that one, the one that had Thor in it. It was a bad version of Thor. I remember watching it at the time. I was like, this is not Thor. But in that movie, they had a lot of references to Valhalla, just like this episode of Clark. So just some other comic book connections for our guest stars. Now, there were some minor dialogue changes in here, nothing major that really changed the scene or anything. They're not even really worth mentioning, but yeah, there were a couple in there. One of them was when they get out of the hospital, Lois says, that was some wild scheme you came up with, Clark, and he says, well, I've been taking lessons from Agent Scardino. And I was like, well, that's probably good they got rid of that. It's I mean, I know he's annoyed with him, but still, you don't want to have Clark admitting that he's getting anything from Scardino. It takes him down a notch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's it puts Scardino up as the alpha male, I'm taking lessons from him. So it's good they cut that out. Now, this was interesting. Klaus, that was the guy's, the henchman. In the script, he was named Martin Wong, which I don't know how that works with a tall, blonde, curly-haired guy. I guess he could have been adopted, but he was named Martin Wong in the script. So I don't know if they were going for they were thinking differently, like they wanted an Asian actor or something, some kind of ninja type guy. I don't know.
Maybe. Scardino's
gift, which we'll talk about later, wasn't supposed to be what it was. It was supposed to be a strange cone-shaped wood carving. I don't know. That's what it says in the script. Strange cone-shaped wood carving. So there you go. There was a cheesy line after after Jimmy's doctor was killed, where I forget if it was Claudette or her daughter. One of them says something about, well, the hospital has a new opening for family medicine now. Which is funny, but you expect something like that. The scene where the Wilders and Klaus are tracking Jimmy at the beginning of the episode wasn't in the script, so that was added later. And then Scardino shows up to give exposition in our episode, but in the script, he doesn't do that. When he shows up to Lois's apartment, he doesn't say anything about, what he's doing there in town or anything like that. He shows up just to ask Lois out. And then there's this whole conversation where she's like, I need to think about this. I can't just jump into things like this. I have this going on, and he's like, hey, it's just an evening out, no big implications here. Let's just go out for an evening, have a good time, just 2 friends. And then Sarah butts in, starting to analyze them both, and Lois cuts her off, and that's when Clark shows up. So it's a little bit different. Like he's definitely pushing going out more.
Yeah.
The whole conversation between Lois and Sarah wasn't about ice cream originally. It was about a rowboat and a speedboat analogy. And I don't know why they changed it. I think the ice cream thing works really good, and there's a callback to it at the end. And all I could think about when it said it was about a rowboat and a speedboat, I was thinking of motorboating, from Wedding Crashers. And I was like, well, exactly. It was a good thing that they changed it. This is the biggest change here. And I didn't know who wrote the episode, but now that I see it was Tony Blake and Paul Jackson, I'm like, okay, well, it makes sense why they wrote this and why someone said, we need to change that, because that's not good. That's not right. I was pretty hard on Lois last episode, as you remember. And if they had left this in, if they had put this in, I would have been even harder on her. But as it is, I'm okay. So while Lois and Clark are on stakeout, originally in the script, she was going to be babbling and suggesting, eventually, I'm just babbling, just why don't you go get some food and we'll just relax. So she makes him leave, and that's when Scardino shows up. Okay? Then Clark comes back, and Scardino obviously leaves like we saw. Lois wants to continue talking to Clark, but he's angry. because of what just happened. They were going to talk about it, and then she makes him leave, and he's like, no, we're not talking. I'm done talking about it. So it's a weird scene because it doesn't fit everything that came before, because he doesn't run off on his own. He doesn't say, oh, let me go get some food. It's her pushing him away, which doesn't fit with what we've had in the last, couple episodes.
Right. It would almost appear like she wanted him to go away.
Exactly.
So Scardino could swoop in or something, You
Right.
can see why Clark would get angry about that.
Well, and that's not even the worst of it. The worst of it is this last scene that they had written, okay? They wrote this scene here. In the episode we saw, Clark has to go at the end because he hears someone shouting for help or whatever. In the original script, he doesn't. He's there talking with Lois, and Lois just flat out says, you know what, Clark? I'm going to go out with Scardino, and you just need to live with it because you know me. I can't live with a what-if situation. Oh, well, okay. And then, I'm like, what? All right. And then as she walks away with Scardino, one of the staffers, probably that guy who was talking to Jimmy earlier, is who they would have gotten.
Could have been Diana.
It could have been. Yes, could have been. It says, you know what? That Scardino has a way with women. And Clark ends the episode by saying, yeah, he just got away with mine. That's it just seems so out of character. I don't think that Lois would actually say that to Clark. And I can't believe that Clark would actually accept being a secondary position like that. If someone says to you, I'm going to go out with him because I just need to know if what I have with you is what I really want. I'm like, you know what? Get the hell out. Forget about it then, That's not right. That's disrespectful to Clark. And I'm so glad that they whoever it was decided to change that to what it was. Because as annoying as it can be, this original script is no. That should not be in there. That really makes her character look bad.
Well, yeah, it's like they got a note that said, look, we're doing this thing where we're pushing this Scardino character between the two of them. And
Right.
maybe Tony Blake and Paul Jackson just went a little too far to the right on this.
Exactly.
They sort of had to rein it back in.
Yep, definitely.
Hey, Jimmy. Thought I'd come by here and cheer you up. How you feeling, son?
I feel much better, Chief.
Well, I just talked to your doctor. He says you're going to be out of here just as good as new in a couple of days. It's great news, huh?
Well, it, does have its downside.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to help him with his insecurities about interpersonal relationships.
I bet you will. Well, Jimmy, I just wanted you to know how, important you are to me, son. And, I'm glad, you're doing okay. Okay?
Thanks, Chief.
All right, so let's get into the main story. In the lead here, your vaccines may be turning your child into a mind-controlled assassin.
Oh, no.
They also cause autism. Yeah, fact.
Exactly. Both of those are facts. Especially the mind-controlled assassin, so watch out. Mom and Dad, you better get him that Oreo.
Okay, so we kick off this episode, and there's this doctor, Catherine, and her mother, Claudette, and they just outright kill this guy, Dr. Golden, over a bunch of files for this Project Valhalla. Now, Project Valhalla, they make it pretty obvious pretty quickly that, of course, Jimmy was involved in this, along with two other children, and that the whole thing of it was to sort of create this mind control substance that would make people do whatever you want them to do. And because it's a government thing, it's to create assassins. He's assassinated, and then we're at the Daily Planet. Perry calls Jimmy into his office.
Yes.
And Jimmy comes out, and I don't know, this scene of him being so broken up over Dr. Golden. And it's like it's his mother or something, you know? He comes out and he's like, oh my God, my doctor's dead. And I'm like,
I know.
You shouldn't be this broken up. I get you've been seeing this guy for a long time, but
right.
It's not your mother. It's not even your dog. Like,
I know. Yeah,
it's your doctor, just a guy that you go to.
It was amusing. And I was wondering why they called Perry. Like, is Perry listed as, like, who to get in contact, you know, at his doctor's office if he dies? Or, like, why? That was just weird.
Yeah, and, you know, I've been going to the same GP forever.
Right.
As well. And, you know, I like my doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, if I randomly got a phone call and said, hey, your doctor is being killed, I'd be like, oh, that sucks.
Exactly. I mean, it's a sad thing, but, you know.
Yeah, I don't know my doctor socially or anything like that.
Right.
I've never been to his house. I don't know his family. He's just my doctor, and I go to him when I feel sick.
Well, Jimmy's just, he's a really caring individual, I guess.
But, yeah. Sorry, Dr. Sander, if you're out there listening.
Maybe you guys should get together, get to know each other a little better. And, you know.
But Catherine is busy making a serum that creates a reaction of some kind, I guess.
Right.
And they've got this guy who's interested in purchasing this project, Valhalla. And they need to do a demonstration and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so there's these 3 test subjects who were like implanted with this like dormant virus when they were children. And now we're testing it. So it's like this project has to play out over a long time. It's not like you can just inject them with the virus, then inject them with the serum, and then bang, automatic killer assassin army, right?
Yeah, and otherwise, you know, you inject the virus when they're babies, and then you inject the serum, you know, a couple days later, and you got little baby assassins walking around, you know? So, yeah, it's definitely a long con, or a long play here.
It would have to be a whole generation of people, right? And they don't really go into much about who this Mr. Moonhouser is. I mean, I recognize him. It's Eric Avari, of course. He plays, like, the Egyptian guy in every movie that needs an Egyptian guy in it. And then, of course, from, like, Electra. But yeah, they don't really go into like what his deal is. He's just a guy, and maybe he could be some sort of dictator or something.
Right. So he's interested in having a whole nation as his army for some reason.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of how they sell it to him. Like, you can just give like vaccines to all your people, and then voila, they're all your assassins. Ha 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 ha. They need to go and investigate this. So, of course, Lois and Clark with Jimmy go to the hospital, and they can't get in. So they create this diversion by pretending that Lois is having a baby. So Jimmy can slip on in and get all these files. And they find that there's these 2 other people, G.E. Mallow. And this guy, like, you think he's going to play a bigger part. He doesn't even have a first name.
No.
G.E. Mallow. Like, you couldn't just call him Greg or something? Like...
I know, G.E.
But the other one is Sarah Goodwin, played by Meredith Scott Lynn. I recognize her from Legally Blonde, of all things.
Maybe that's where I remember her from then. Yeah, I know I've seen her before. I just couldn't remember where.
And she's like a psych major or something.
She's pretty funny, you know, and she's so stereotypical of like a psych major, you know, always trying to analyze everybody as soon as she meets them, you know, and like people just getting annoyed by that. She's a good bit of comic relief, I think, added in.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, are they going to have her stick around?
I don't believe so.
The whole thing with Denise Richards, and they didn't want to keep her around.
Right.
But now they've introduced this character that, you know, by the end of it, I mean, I'm going with it here. I think her and Jimmy are now a thing.
It seemed like it, but like thinking back, if she is around, she's in such a small part that I never really noticed her. So she might be around for more episodes, but I just don't remember seeing her that much. But again, this is, you know, years ago that I last saw these, so could be mistaken.
But they sort of come across her being attacked by this henchman, Klaus.
Right.
And of course, Superman has to catch him. She comes into the group and she's sort of helping them out, and they figure that there's something going on here because she has this same rash that Jimmy gets on his arm at the same time every year, and it's a side effect of the virus. They also find that they were born at the same military base and had just turned 20, so they're exactly the same age. They've got all this back history that's exactly the same. So, you know, it's pretty clear what's going on here. We're going to get this test that they perform with G.E. Mallow, and they send him to kill Lois and Clark by shooting up the Daily Planet.
You put in here that he wanted to test on a man only, and I noticed that too, because he did say on a man, you know, for some reason. And I wonder, is that supposed to be a link to where his culture is, for like what, you know, from where he's supposed to be from, or was that just?
I think so. He insists that it be on a man, and then he actually does have this throwaway line where he says, "In my country, we don't need drugs to control our women."
Right.
And you're like, oh God, yeah. Just really trying to make us hate this guy.
Yes, exactly.
It's not enough that he's like a tyrannical dictator. He also wants to beat women into submission, so. really
Exactly.
hate him. But this is a full-on scene where this dude just comes in, just shooting the place up, right?
I know. Yeah. He's just blasting away at everything.
Man, I was like, whoa, this is heavy for an episode of Lois and Clark. And the Superman tries to, like, stop him and, you know, does the whole bending the gun bit. And then the dude just flat out dies.
Now, wouldn't this be, like, I don't know, it seems to me that if I was a bad guy, that I had an assassin who went in, did his job, and then died, maybe that would be the best way. Because then the guy can't talk if he's captured. You know, can't be forced to tell who hired him and everything. So I know they're going to try to change the serum so that it doesn't kill the people. But it seems like that would be a good thing for a bad guy. Send in your assassin, have him do his job, and then he just dies, and then you're clean.
Well, it wouldn't be good in the long run, though, would it? If you inject your entire nation with this thing,
True, yeah.
You would just kill everybody, and then you wouldn't be a dictator of anything.
I've got everything in the world except people living here.
But then Scardino shows up.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're saying in the investigation. Originally, he had no reason to be there other than to ask out Lois. But in the actual finished episode, he's investigating a stolen shipment of Tycian, which was used to create the serum, I guess. And that's why G.E. Mallow died of this Tycian overdose. They used too much of it. So, I don't know. I go with it. I don't think Tycian's a real thing, but you know, they had to make up something. And a better reason for Scardino to be there other than to just ask out Lois.
Exactly. Because that's Paul Jackson, Tony Blake. Anyway, moving on.
They randomly have this scene with an old buddy of Perry's, Admiral Whalen. He calls him Salin Whalen, played by Charles Napier.
It was funny. You know,
it was a bit of fun. The fact that he used to be like a Marine, I guess, Salin Whalen, and they're there playing Battleship.
And he sucks.
It's a real big, like, exposition scene, really.
Oh, yeah.
Just for him to sort of lay out some information, and they're just like, oh, okay, that's how it is. And then Jimmy hooks up with Sarah. They're at Lois's place, laying low, and the two of them hook up. It turns out, and this is actually a really good twist. I did not see this coming. Earlier, when they found her, she wasn't being attacked or kidnapped by Klaus. They had actually already kidnapped her, injected her with the serum, and he was bringing her back, and she just happened to wake up at that moment.
Yeah, that was good.
That's pretty good. That's some good writing from our old friends Tony Blake, Paul Jackson. Good twists. Well played, sirs.
Yes.
So she's actually tasked to kill Clark, and naturally she fails at this. But now Jimmy's also injected, and he is sent to Lois's place to kill her. Now, this is where our three bad guys are the biggest freaking idiots in the world.
Yes.
Like, they couldn't just set up a camera or something to watch this. No, they show up in person to watch Jimmy kill Lois, and then Superman shows up. Like, what a bunch of dumbasses.
This is very 1966 Batman. You know, like where they're just watching the whole thing go down, and boom, they get caught because they're just standing there watching the whole thing. Oh, that was good.
But Jimmy does get like a good one in on Scardino. That was great.
Oh, yeah.
Punches him like right in the face.
You're like, yes, finally, someone takes care of him.
And so Superman saves the day, catching Jimmy as he jumps out of a window. But then Scardino is the one who rounds up the trio as they try to flee. So he's still weaseled in there.
Exactly.
So, you know, that's the main story. Let's get into the bylines.
You sound like you've been infected with red kryptonite there. That's the main story. Whatever. Yeah. Let's see the bylines, I guess. That sums up how I feel about the episode. But anyway, bylines.
Okay, so Klaus, Claudette's henchman, with these blonde curls and bandana. This dude, like, what?
I think that Claudette needs to get together with Rolf. Can you see that happening? Because, I'd like to see that.
What about Scardino's art present?
I don't get that.
Neither do I.
That's just weird. Like, why? Like, why make that choice to make that eye lips thing? And that looks creepy to me. That looks like you're, like, I don't know.
I love that she like, Lois doesn't get it either, and she's like 2 seconds away from dropping it in the trash when he shows up.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you're here. Like, what would she have done if she actually did throw it in the trash and then he showed up and saw it?
Yeah, I know. It's just a weird thing. Like, I don't know. Like, why not just bring roses or something?
Yeah, he says, like, anybody can bring flowers. I thought this would be different. I'm just like, well, if you want to mix it up, I don't know, get her a plant or something. I don't know.
If I were Lois, I'd be like, are these pictures of my lips and eyes? Are you a psycho? You know? Like, what the hell?
But Lois finally tells Scardino that she's been seeing Clark.
I know.
It's taken long enough. We've been complaining about this since, the first time the dude showed up.
Exactly.
And he just will not let go.
No.
And then Lois even talks to Sarah about it, and she gives her this whole chocolate versus Rocky Road ice cream bit.
Which is good.
Yeah, and Clark's talking to Perry about it as well, so it's, a little back and forth there.
I wonder if there was supposed to be some underlying message there when they start talking about putting nuts on it and bananas and...
Bananas.
You know? It's like, are we going there? Are we going to go there? No.
Nuts and bananas. All subtext.
Yes.
But then Lois has finally had enough of Clark running off, and she asks out Scardino.
Yeah, don't like that.
Hate it.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just like, damn it, no.
We're there now. We can't be too bad about it. We know it's not going to last.
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay, what about Mrs. Berkey, the angry black nurse?
Yes. Now, do you know who she is?
No.
When she showed up, I was like, I know her. I know her from somewhere. And like, I did some thinking. I did some looking. And it turns out that she is Olivia from Sesame Street. If you watched Sesame Street as a kid. This is the actress who played Olivia, which I did. And like the old school Sesame Street, not the newfangled one that's going to be on like HBO or whatever, like After Dark or whatever. No, this is the original, Sesame Street. So yeah, that's Olivia. She lived on Sesame Street. She was also in 227, but I remember her from Sesame Street, helping me learn my ABCs.
There you go. But she was a lot of fun, Just
she was.
Like, you can't come back here. Very cliche, but fun. Okay, there is a random-ass scene where Superman goes to stop some hoodlums.
Yes.
I have no idea what this was about. It served no purpose whatsoever, really.
Well, wasn't it just so that they could have Clark run away again?
I guess so.
Yeah,
like
I think that's
he doesn't do that enough in the episode already for good reason.
I think that's the only reason why it's there, just to show that he's running away again and annoying Lois enough that she's going to actually go forward and ask out someone instead of waiting for them to come to her.
I don't know, it just felt like a bit of padding for the thing. I'm just like, we'll just have him run away again, just to really strike home that he runs off a lot. Like, we don't know that he does that. Anyway. And then lastly, Clark does that fast typing hack thing again. This annoys me. I wish he didn't do this.
Any reason why? Or
it's just, I don't think it's plausible.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. You can only type so fast.
The computer wouldn't be able to keep up with him.
Exactly.
And then, of course, he always waves off like a bunch of smoke or something. I'm like, would you break it now? I wish you wouldn't do this.
Exactly.
So, all in all, kind of the so-so episode.
Yeah, it was not the greatest, not the worst, but yeah.
Let's get into the quote vote.
All righty.
What's everybody standing around for? This is a newspaper, not happy hour at Buckingham Palace. What are we here, the Daily Planet? Or second stringers from the Weehawken Gazette? Am I making myself perfectly clear?
I am, no votes this week at all. Nobody voted.
No votes!
Like, did nobody see my post this week? I don't think we've ever had no votes.
Oh, man.
It's crazy. I even put it up a bit earlier this week than usual. I managed to see the episodes a couple of days earlier than I usually get around to, and nobody voted. So I had to make an executive decision myself. So let's do it. All right. Cue the music.
Hick and Rembrandt Brown talk in an office.
Hick, I'm not sure I'm comfortable talking about this.
Well, I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but it just seems to me that this Russian character has already got one paw in the chicken coop.
Hick, there's nothing for me to do. She knows how I feel. I thought I knew how she felt.
If you asked me, you're doing too much thinking and not enough doing.
Hick, I really don't want to start competing for her attention.
Well, you better do something because believe me, it's no picnic down at Heartbreak Hotel. Yay! and see. I think that's just going to have to be the tag.
This is how every scene ends from now on. Okay, so let's get into our second episode discussion today. The episode is Individual Responsibility, written by Chris Rupenthal and directed by Alan J. Levy, and this originally aired April 16th of 1995.
Right here, that's where Superman comes in. Now, I talk to him, and then, bang, we open the box and look at him. He gets within 10 feet of that thing, his whole mood changes. It's like he doesn't even care.
Well, this is better than killing him. He just doesn't care. That was the problem with that green kryptonite. It always ticked him off. But no, this is perfect. For Operation Nirvana to succeed, it's essential we control the media. And that means the Daily Planet. And if Franklin Stern won't sell the planet to me, then we'll just have to do things the old-fashioned way. And Perry White's pal Superman won't be able to do a thing about it.
When Bill Church Jr., the new head of Intergang, now that his father retired, orders a lackey to search for kryptonite, his prayers are answered as they discover it, albeit a new variety in the form of red rather than green. A test is performed as the lackey robs a bank, and the red kryptonite appears to make Superman not care about fighting crime, letting the criminals go. Meanwhile, Perry is on the ropes trying to convince the Daily Planet publisher not to sell it to a company that he suspects is headed by Intergang. With no proof, he sets Lois and Clark loose, hoping that they will find information needed to prove Intergang's link to the buyout. Unfortunately, Perry is kidnapped by Intergang shortly thereafter, and once again, the Red K prevents Superman from wanting to help him. Lois sends him to a counselor, hoping she can snap Superman out of his malaise, while the kidnapped Perry rebuffs continuous offers and threats from Bill Jr. to join Intergang. Back at the planet, Jimmy and Lois field questions from fellow reporters about stories and calls from the publisher about Perry's whereabouts. Some digging reveals a hidden basement at one of the Cosmart stores, and after receiving a call from a temporarily escaped Perry who went all MacGyver on his captors, Lois and Clark go to check it out and run into a recaptured Perry, along with Bill Jr. and his associates. They try the Red K trick again, which seems to work at first, but Superman, having discovered the Red K as well and understanding its effects, can now deal with it and fights off the devil-may-care attitude, takes Bill Jr. and friends into custody as Perry writes the story up for the planet, saving them from the sale.
No permanent address, no social security number, and no medical insurance. I assume you'll be paying in cash?
Well,
Superman? I'm Dr. Friskin.
I haven't been myself lately. I've been feeling apathetic toward everything.
And this worries you?
Dr. Friskin, every day I make choices that affect the lives of millions of people. Life and death, good and evil. Sometimes the fate of the whole world depends on the things that I do or the choices that I make. So yes, this worries me.
So, you're feeling stressed?
Okay, so just a little bit here in the investigation.
So there was a scene here when Perry was kidnapped, and Bill Jr. is asking him about his opinion on some polo shirts that he wants to sell at Cosmart. It leads to Perry saying, I'm not ever going to sell out. I'm not joining Intergang. And he says, the other newspapers won't either. And that's when Church presses a button, and in walk all of the other newspaper editors from Metropolis. And they have all apparently joined Intergang already. So every other editor in town has committed their paper to Intergang already. It was a little weird. I was like, really? Every single one. So, okay, and then that was it. They, once they come in, Perry's like, what? I can't believe this, and then they all leave the room, and then the scene carries on like it did with him threatening Alice and the mother and all that.
All right.
Kind of interesting. It kind of shows that, Perry is actually the last bastion of truth and justice in the newspaper world here in town.
But with Superman, saving the day at the end. And everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Does that mean every other paper in town is now out of business and the Daily Planet is even more popular?
Right. So Superman, after he discovers the red kryptonite under the couch, he starts wondering there about, now that he found it, how's he going to, handle the effects? of it. Like, how can you do that? Like, they had a little line about it in the episode, but I guess they were going to go a little bit more into it when he's talking with the doctor there. And then before he leaves, he says, "Don't worry, I'll make sure you get paid for these sessions," which is good, but I don't think anyone was really worried about that, And then finally, in the script, this weird, I don't know, like, why they did this. Maybe just to call back to Bill Sr., to Peter Boyle. But when Bill Jr. is holding Lois at gunpoint, his cell phone rings. He answers it, and he's like, "Hello? Hi, Dad. Can I call you back later? I'm in the middle of something. You shot a 73. Great. Bye." He hangs up, and the scene just goes on as it was in the actual episode. Like, what? Why? Why is this in the script?
Probably just give Bruce Campbell some extra sort of
I guess.
ham it up a bit.
Exactly. So, yeah, there you go.
Hey, Billy. We're on a first-class prison here.
Oh, Perry, don't think of it as a prison. I'd like you to think of this place as your future corporate headquarters.
I'll never join in a gang.
Perhaps you don't fully understand the situation. You see, if you work for me, you get rich beyond your wildest dreams. If, on the other hand, you continue to cling to your misguided morality, you die. Now, at Harvard Business School, we'd call that a no-brainer. It's all right. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of Perry, because he's either going to be part of our team, or he'll soon be playing for the Angels.
I've put the red kryptonite in Dr. Friskin's office.
Red kryptonite? What in Sam Hill's that?
Well, we discovered it by accident, but we're very pleased with its effects on Superman. See, evidently it makes him very apathetic about his work.
So that's why he didn't try to save me, huh?
But he thinks he's having some kind of nervous breakdown.
See, it's perfect. Superman is going to a shrink to get well, but all he'll get is more exposure to the red kryptonite. My scientists tell me that his condition could become permanent.
Permanent?
Oh, by the way, send a nice little gift off to Friskin's receptionist for tipping us off. Something along the lines of Mercedes.
Already handled, Mr. Church.
You know, I'm ashamed I ever let you spit up on me.
Okay, so let's get into the main story here. And our lead, all new Red Cherry Kryptonite Cola, will take all your cares away.
Ooh, get me some of that.
Yes, because we begin, right at the beginning, unearthing some red kryptonite.
Yeah, I forgot about this episode. I forgot that they even discovered red kryptonite in Lois and Clark. Now, did you know about red kryptonite before you saw it on here?
You know, I always knew there were different kinds of kryptonite, but I can't remember what they all do. Isn't there a whole bunch of them?
Oh, yeah, there's a ton. There's gold kryptonite, which I think gold strips Kryptonians of their powers completely. There was like a fake silver one that was used as a gag joke. There's blue and there's like tons of different colors. But red kryptonite, it always has some different effect every time they bring it up in the stories, throughout Superman's history. Every time he's exposed to red kryptonite, it does something different. It's like unpredictable, which I think is cool. It's a neat way to change up, because like when you get the green kryptonite, he's gonna get sick. He might possibly die. It's like the same thing over and over. But with red kryptonite, something always different happens, and some of the things are just really off the wall, because this comes I think it came about like in the 60s, the 50s, 60s, Silver Age, Superman. So it was a little less serious. So here's some of the things that have happened to him when Superman's been exposed to red kryptonite. So he's been transformed into a dragon. He's become evil. He's transformed into a non-powered giant. He's been transformed into a dwarf. He's been transformed into an ant-headed humanoid, transformed into a lunatic. I don't know how they did that one. He transformed into a lunatic. I'd like to see lunatic Superman, personally. He's been rendered amnesiac. He's been rendered temporarily blind to anything colored green. He's had excessive hair growth, loss of power, gained telepathy, lost his invulnerability along the left side of his body. He's generated an evil doppelganger. He's been unable to speak or write anything but Kryptonese. He's had growth of extra limbs. He's had a loss of balance and manual dexterity. He's had mental transference, rapid aging, personality alteration, and my favorite, his head grew to a point where Clark had to hide the problem with a big hat.
Okay.
How you like that?
I love it.
I think I remember that one. I think I remember that one when he had his head was huge because it was on the cover and he had like this bulbous head, you know, like you see like on like 1950s Aliens, you know, like Mars Attacks or something. It was very strange. So yeah, you get some different effects with red kryptonite. It's pretty amusing.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag of things that it can do.
Exactly.
But here we get into it pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, right away.
We get Bill Church back, but not as we remember him, because this is Bill Church Jr., as played by Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, this is cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
And he orders a field test of this red kryptonite. And pretty much what it does is it changes up his mood, really.
Right.
Kind of just makes him apathetic or uncaring.
Yeah, he's just like, whatever, you do what you want. They'll reissue this, they'll do that. I'm going to go hang out.
So I'm glad that they kind of just went with this than anything else on that list.
Really? You didn't want to see him, you know, just invulnerable on the right side of his body, or, you know, or extra limbs? You didn't want to see extra limbs? Come on.
I don't know. Just the fact that it changes up his personality is, I don't know, a bit more grounded in reality.
Oh, yes, exactly. Definitely more grounded.
And of course, Church Jr. works for Intergang, and he comes up with this new plan to buy the Daily Planet under a subsidiary called Multi-World Communications. You know, I can understand, like, they make reference to the James L. Jones character who bought the Daily Planet, right? And the whole thing is kind of like this deadline. Like, he's thinking about it, like he might do it, and they've got to prove that Bill Church Jr. works for Intergang because Bill Church fronts Intergang.
Right.
They need to prove that now.
Exactly.
But thank God Scardino's out of town, so Clark tries to get back in Lois's good graces, which, thank God.
I know. I'm so glad he wasn't in here.
And then Perry's kidnapped. And again, Superman becomes affected by this red kryptonite. And I thought this was a cool scene, actually. It kind of threw me off a little bit because, I mean, we see them outside a lot, but really, like, the streets of Metropolis is like a big backlot, really. You know, I'm not saying it's not an impressive set. I'm just saying it feels like a set.
Right.
But here, they're in this parking garage, and it's daylight out and everything. I don't know. Suddenly, it just felt like they were in the real world.
Yeah, it seemed like a real world thing. You know, just being there in that parking garage, and you know, it just it felt. It was nice.
Yeah, and then Perry's being kidnapped, and of course Superman comes up. They bust out the red kryptonite, and he just stops caring. He's just like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I love the performance that Dean Cain gives as the uncaring Superman.
Right.
And then when, like, Lois is bringing it up later with Clark and everything, and he's just like, you know, Superman's not the police, Lois. Like, have you heard of the police? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's their job. You know,
exactly.
And he's talking about the bank. Like, I'm sure they're insured. Like, what does it matter? They got away with some stuff.
Yeah, he did good.
And then he's hitting on Tiffany with an eye, which I love. Talking about his muscles and stuff. It's all natural.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it was I'm sure it was fun for him to play, you know, instead of having to be stoic and majestic, you know. He's just like, you know what, here, check out my muscles, baby, you know.
But, you know, still, I think, like all the bad guys' plans, I kind of understand how Superman can get around this.
Yeah.
They keep doing it over and over again, as if, like, Superman's not going to figure this out. So, you know, in that respect, it's a bit flimsy. But as a whole, you know, it's Bruce Campbell and everything. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Actually, there was some mention about Bruce Campbell and everything in the Superman homepage on their review. And they mentioned that he actually seems to be playing the part of Morgan Edge, which was not a competitor to Daily Planet. It was when Clark Kent went to work for GBC. It was a news station, so he wasn't doing the Daily Planet anymore. It was, I think it was GBC, and it was like a news station where he was an on-air anchor, and Morgan Edge was the owner of that. So they said he really looks like, you know, the Morgan Edge character from the comics, because he's tall, thin, dark hair, and everything. They were wondering why they didn't just make it Morgan Edge, but I guess they wanted to get this whole Intergang thing going.
Yeah, exactly. The connection back to Bill Church. So, yeah, it makes sense.
I seem to think that Bruce Campbell's going to be around. You know, I know that despite the ending, I think he's going to be around for more episodes, I believe, at least in the next season.
He was only captured, so...
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
He can escape prison. But Church starts giving Perry the hard sell.
Yeah.
And, of course, he starts threatening Perry's family, including Alice, of course. Perry being captured, I thought this was interesting, because he starts you know, as you were saying in the summary of the episode, he goes all MacGyver.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, I didn't understand what he was doing. Like, he steals the cutter, the cigar cutter that Bill Church had, and then he starts messing around with these wires, and in the end, really all he does is turn off the lights and then make a big flash with the other one, and then he hits him. I'm like, couldn't you have just waited for him to turn his back and then hit him? You know, like, why'd you have to go through this elaborate, you know, setup?
Yeah, that lamp was a big stick, you know, you could have just whacked him with that.
Exactly.
I guess he wanted to electrify it.
Yeah. It's very funny. The thing is, like, and I thought about this too when he sends Lois and Clark to investigate and everything. It's like, yeah, I guess they can investigate that. But again, they aren't really cops, you know? They are just newspaper people, you know? And, like, you don't know if there's a story there. You think there is, but he sends them out like they're detectives, like going out to, you know, solve a crime. And then Perry here, you know, doing this little wire work or whatever, makes it seem like he was like an ex-cop himself. You know, it's like it doesn't fit to me, the idea of a newspaper reporter.
They had to give him something to do. Like,
yeah.
If he was just there and captured and threatened the whole time,
right.
I mean, you'd be like, come on, Perry, do something.
Exactly.
But then we get to this whole thing where, of course, like, Superman and therefore Clark are having, like, a crisis of identity. Don't know what's going on. So Lois sends Superman to see this shrink, Dr. Friskin. And there's this throwaway line where Church got tipped off by the secretary there. And she seems so nice as well. But she gets thanked with, like, a Mercedes or something like that. He says, yeah, let's give her a Mercedes or whatever.
Yeah.
And they plant some red kryptonite underneath the lounge that you lay down on there. So he's in there getting more and more exposure. And he's pretty much saying that, like, if Superman's exposed to red kryptonite long enough, then his apathy will just become permanent. I thought all this stuff where he's talking to Dr. Friskin and stuff, it was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I thought it was cool because it's happened, like, I've read, when I used to read comics, there was this one storyline, which was well after Lois and Clark. This was, like, probably, I don't know, 2016? Probably like 2000. Yeah, probably about 10 years ago. There was a story where he actually did go to a psychiatrist to talk, you know, sort of like how in the Man of Steel movie, he goes into the church, you know, and has the whole conversation with the pastor. It was similar to that, you know, like where he's wondering, like, you know, what is he doing here on this world? Like, why, you know, is he helping? You know, and he has a conversation with the psychiatrist, and it plays into the whole overall, you know, story arc over a couple issues. So it was really good. You know, I saw this and it's like, yeah, this reminds me of that. Very, very good idea. Neat idea. Because the thing about Superman is he cares so much about people. So you got to find a way to, like, depower him in this way where he's thinking about individual lives and his role and everything. That's what makes him, that's another weakness of his, you know? So I thought that was cool in that storyline. So him doing it here is you know, I liked it.
Yeah, and, you know, when he does discover that red kryptonite under there, you know, I kind of expected it to do more to him because he handles it and everything. Like, he picks it up. And you think, okay, now it's actually in his hands. He really stopped caring. But he sort of, like, starts doing it, and then Friskin points out that that's happening, so he just throws it out the window.
Right, yeah.
To get it away from him. And I'm just like, well, you know, you get close to it and this happens, and now you've touched it. I was a bit like, you know, I wish something else just happened there. Like, it affected him even more.
I think the idea is that now that he knows it's there, you know, and it's having this effect on him, since it's affecting him mentally, he can sort of, like, rearrange, like, think about it differently. You know, and he's able to overcome it now that he knows, oh, this is how it's affected me, so I just got to think stronger, you know, or think that I do care, you know, or just, like, mentally overcome it instead of physically.
Yeah, well, I think this whole episode just wraps up really quickly, you know, and we've had that before in the past where it all kind of just wraps up all of a sudden. And so there's that, you know, he finds it and throws it away.
Right.
They make this tenuous link via tip from Bobby Big Mouth about Jean, because Superman, like, pulled his mask off at one point and saw his face, drew a picture. And this guy was a soil analyst who worked for Cosmart for reasons.
Just because. Well, maybe for building a new Cosmart location, they had to test the soil, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe he worked in the garden department.
There you go.
And that links him to why he found the kryptonite, like why he was sent out there to locate it. He works with, you know, soil and minerals and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, just the fact that he worked for Cosmart, I was like, Okay. Weird. And then, yeah, they also have some blueprints for the Cosmart site. And they're just like, there's this whole, like, underground part. So that must be where they are. And then they fly in and Superman saves everyone.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's very quick.
Wraps up. Yeah, but I did like, after he found that kryptonite, threw it away, they try to use it again once they're down there, as if to, be like, all right, Superman, just go away. And he's just like, no. No, it's not going to happen this time. That's what I mean. Like, these guys, they didn't think long term about this. They just thought it would keep working all the time.
Yes.
And then it ends, of course, with Clark opening up to Lois, being a bit vulnerable with her, if you will.
Yeah, this was a good scene.
And they make plans for another day.
And yeah, and now here's the thing, which I was thinking about last episode. Superman's got to have some time off to himself. This is why he is Clark Kent. He's not Superman full time. He wants to have a life for himself. So, like last episode when he was just running off to take care of these little minor crimes, like you said, it was like random. It's like, yeah, like if he's having a conversation like this with Lois, the person he's, presumably loves, he needs to, like, if there's something going on, maybe he needs to take a little break and just, like, focus on what he's doing at the moment. Which that's why I like this episode where he's talking to the psychiatrist and she's like, maybe you should, like, maybe you need a break, maybe you need time for you.
Take a holiday, yeah.
Exactly. So, like, at the end here, when he's planning, they're planning this date, and she's like, be there at 7 and 7:01 and 7:02. Like, I hope so. I hope he does. I hope he decides, yeah, there might be a crime going on over there, but you know what? I'm not Superman all the time. I need to focus on Clark, not just Superman. So I hope that that's how this goes.
Yeah, exactly. And, getting into the bylines, where Clark is actually talking to Lois about her date with Scardino.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about him running off all the time. Just to have him run off again in the middle of that conversation. And I'm like, seriously, I get it. He runs off a lot. Like, can we knock this off already? We get it.
Like, here's the thing. Up until the last, 2 episodes, really, I know he's run off, but it's never been a big deal. It's been odd. Yes, it's been odd. She's noticed it. But they really started to ramp it up these last 2 episodes that he runs off just as they're going to, do something very important or say something very important. So they really made it really, really, they hammered it in these last couple episodes. So it's like, we get it. We got it.
Exactly. And some of the stuff that Superman said while exposed to red kryptonite, makes a lot of sense, really.
Mm-hmm.
The city has police. Like, Superman doesn't have to be there for everything. The police have jobs to do. There's stuff he can just let them do, like hoodlums out in the street, graffiti.
Yeah, it's like graffiti. I know you want to stop, and this is what Superman does, but you were in the middle of a very important conversation with, your love. I think you should not just be running off like that, because that's going to cause some problems, It's like, come on, take time off for you.
Find the balance. Yeah. Live your life.
Yeah, which he did pretty well, up until the last couple episodes. They really started to hammer it in that he's, running away at these inopportune times just because they need to get her mad at him.
Exactly. So, yeah, I had to mention this. Intergang needs to work on their corporate branding. Down in the lair, underneath Cosmart, there's Intergang sprawled in big capital letters across this giant map in Church's office.
Oh.
And then later on in the episode, they're talking about, clearing the place out, and Church Jr. says, hey, if the police or whoever raised this place, they could never link it back to Intergang. And I'm like, dude, it says Intergang in capital letters across your map, which is right behind you.
Right, I didn't notice that. That's funny.
Seriously. People are going to know that Intergang's involved.
Well, maybe that's why he got... Because I was thinking about that. Because he said he got rid of everything. And then at the end, in the newspaper, it says that he's been linked to the head of Intergang. I was wondering how they made that connection. Maybe that's why they left it there. Maybe it wasn't just an oversight. Maybe they actually did leave it there for a reason. The writers I'm talking about.
Let's get a photo of the guy in his office. Bang. Proof.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, there's this whole bit, while Perry's gone, and they're trying to hold down the fort. And Lois is trying to handle stuff. She later passes it on to Jimmy, who ends up calling a psychic. I don't know. I kind of like this stuff, It kind of shows you how hardworking Perry is, We don't get to see everything, the ins and outs of his job.
Yeah, no, it was cool to see them running the place. Trying to do what he does and everything, and coming to Jimmy for questions. And it was a funny scene, especially like you're saying this next thing. We got David Graff, of course, from Police Academy.
Mm-hmm. Another Rewatch Podcast connection.
And he's talking to Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, it's almost like he took on Perry's personality. He's like, oh, I don't know, Wally, I don't know. And he's like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Perry. I was like, that was pretty funny. Yeah, it was neat.
It was fun, especially like when Wally's like talking about the sex scandal with the mayor and everything. And
right.
Jimmy's calling a psychic to try and get tips and everything. It turns out that having said no to Wally's story was actually the right thing to do because his source was a total liar.
In the Superman homepage review, they actually mentioned that this has happened before where Perry's been gone and someone had to take over at the planet for him. But it happened back in the 1950s, George Reeves' Superman show. And back then, they said it never would have been Lois in charge just because of the times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was always the man. So Clark was always in charge at the planet. If Perry was like kidnapped or indisposed or whatever, he was always the one that they put in charge, which the reviewer said I always thought was weird because Lois is obviously the one who's been there longer. You know, she has seniority. She would be the one in charge, but it's a product of the times.
Women can't have that kind of responsibility.
Right.
Or we'd all go to hell. Ooh.
So it was neat. I liked seeing Lois, you know, as the boss, being in charge. It was cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Like, you could see that happening with her, you know, pedigree, all that she's done and you know, earned over the years.
Yeah, definitely. So I think all in all, I mean, like, even with, you know, some of the plot details that I wasn't so happy with, I thought this was a really interesting episode and, you know, introducing Red Kryptonite and everything. It was a bit of fun.
Oh, yeah.
So I quite liked it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite episodes. Like I said, I forgot about it completely. But then, yeah, once I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this. It was really good. So, yeah, it was fun.
And it's a plot device that they can bring back later if they want to.
Exactly.
Well, I was just telling Jimmy how I stopped one of Church's henchmen with the karate chop. You know, Elvis is into karate.
It was impressive.
Almost as impressive as your story, Chief.
Well, you know, I haven't had a byline in 17 years. Nice to know I've still got the juice.
Nice to know Mr. Stern's not selling the paper.
Oh, I think we're safe for a while. Jimmy, I heard you running the show while I was gone.
Well, not exactly. You see,
No, son. You did a good job. Now, Wally's eyewitness turned out to be a world-class liar. If we'd gone with that story, the mayor would have sued our butts off.
Well, I just did what you always taught me, Chief. My gut.
Uh-huh. I only have one question. What's this, call Xena?
Isn't that number you call for personal psychic guidance?
I can explain that. I think we better go now. I can. Really.
All right, well, let's get into some back issues.
Which we don't really have any. It was weird. Like, at this point, we've had a lot of back issues, you know, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. You know, we finally got some stuff because there was a while there where we weren't getting anything at all. And it just seems like we're back to not getting anything at all for this episode. Like, I looked through and tried to find anything. Like, I searched, you know, like as I do, the old forums and everything like that. And there was just nothing about these particular episodes at all. I even tried the Kryptonian Cybernet, the guy who ran that. You know, he did like a whole newsletter thing every month, and there was reviews of certain episodes, but they didn't do every single episode, and they didn't do individual responsibility. They didn't do. You know, for some reason, I don't know why, Target Jimmy Olsen wasn't in there. They just picked and chose what they decided to review. And these two episodes, for some reason, they didn't talk about.
You think they would talk about the Red Kryptonite episode?
I did see some mention for, like, the next episodes, the last two, obviously. You know, those are the big ones. So maybe they were just, like, more focused on covering that and the impact of that, what that would have on the storyline, I guess. I don't know. I just thought it was odd. Like, I couldn't find anything. I looked up titles. I looked up characters' names. Like, I looked up Friskin in the forums, and there was, like, I couldn't find any mentions of that. I did find mentions from, like, a year or two later. Someone was doing a rewatch, but I didn't find any from the first time that these episodes aired.
Oh, well, there you go. Can't win them all.
Yeah, can't win them all. It's all right. It's all good.
But our next issue, we are wrapping up season 2.
Yes, we are. I'm excited.
Yeah. The last 2 episodes of the season are Wine, 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 and the answer is.
And the answer is, I remember what that one is about. Do you remember?
No, I seriously cannot remember how this season wraps up.
The answer is, if I'm remembering correctly, it does have to do with Clark revealing who he is.
Interesting. All right.
Yes.
No more spoilers, please.
Yes. If I remember correctly. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it goes or if I forget, but I know it has something to do with him revealing. I'm not sure about wine. Maybe more back and forth between Lois and Scardino, maybe, and Clark getting like upset about it.
Maybe Scardino's going to be the wimpy one. What? Oh, bugger off, Scardino.
I can't see that, but that would be good. Just because we don't like him. So. Well, whatever wine is about, we will wine about it next week, because that's it for this issue of the Rewatch Podcast. Don't forget to keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast or facebook.com/Lois and Clark Rewatch. Follow the show on Twitter at Rewatch Pod, or visit the webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has links to some of our favorite sites there, such as zoomway.net, folc.wiki.com, and the supermanhomepage.com, and as well as links to our archive of film rewatch episodes.
Yes, and go there while you can, because it won't be there forever. As we will be moving away from Podomatic soon. So
yes.
But remember, you can always write us an email or record a voice message and send it over to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. And also, if you've enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. Helps out more than you know. And you can always support the Rewatch Podcast by heading over to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast and making a monthly contribution as little as $1. And I did want to give a shout out to a Patreon subscriber.
Get out.
We've been testing the waters with this, and you know, it hasn't been going extremely well, but we did have a member of our listening audience named Your Evil Twin, who is a regular contributor over at my 12 Monkeys Uncaged podcast as well.
Nice.
He's from England, and he has given us a $10 a month Patreon.
I'm thanking my evil twin. That's
yes.
That's awesome, evil twin. I appreciate you.
I was quite surprised when I saw it. So, yeah, you know, I think we'd really like to push ahead with our Patreon. You know, really help us keep the lights on around here, because, you know, podcasting is a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it's not free. There are certain costs involved, and if we can, you know, get a small amount from contributors like Your Evil Twin, he's really just helping us keep the lights on around here. So thank you very much.
We're not going off to the Bahamas, you know, with this money. We're not planning our trips. This is all just to make sure we can afford the hosting costs and everything.
Exactly, and it's not like our pockets are empty and keeping the show going or anything. It's just, you know,
right.
If you guys would like to help us out, a small amount of money, as little as $1 a month, it could make all the difference.
So yes, thank you, your evil twin.
And of course, we're also on YouTube, so you can search Rewatch Podcast and subscribe today. Our entire back catalogue is up there. Okay, well, thank you for joining me for these 2 episodes again, Tom.
Yep.
And I would just say, until next time, bananas. Don't take me there.
I couldn't figure out where that was from. I was like, what? We gotta fly.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with Warner Brothers Television, ABC, Gangbuster Films Incorporated, or Roundelay Productions.
Don't believe everything you see on TV.
The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use.
Let's get legal on this.
Music provided by Kevin McCloud at incompetech.com.
Great shades of Elvis.
Copyright 2016, The Rewatch Podcast.
Wear your beepers. We'll be in touch.
Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Corey.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Corey. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon.
Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast.
Thanks, everyone.